Alright, so now we're going to talk about the power rule. And the power rule is one of the most basic ways to take the derivative of a function. So let's go through the basic formula for the power rule. So let's say we have some x and its raised to some n, some exponent. To take the derivative, dx over dy of x to the n, we would say that this would turn into n times x to the n minus 1, right? So you see, we bring this exponent down and we multiply it by our x, and then we subtract 1 from our exponent. So let's try it out with something really easy like x to the third. Right? So, we bring it down, it turns into 3 times x, and then we have to subtract 1. So, 3x squared. That's really just how simple it is, right? So, using the power rule, you can normally predict what power your derivative is going to be. So assume I had x squared, right? I'd be able to tell you that its derivative would be to the first power, so it would be a straight line like this. The way I know this is because a quadratic is x squared, so it's to the second power, and a straight line is just x to the first power, essentially the same thing, right? You can keep doing this on and on. So if we had a cubic, its derivative would be x squared. Quartic, that's derivative would be a cubic. It just goes on and on and on. So now, let's assume we have just x, right? So, with x, we're just going to assume that it has an exponent to the power of 1, right? So, we bring down our 1 times x, 1 minus 1 is 0, and we know that anything to the 0th power is 1, so we end up with our derivative just being 1, right? So that is the general rule that our x, the derivative of x, will always be 1. Now, let's assume we have something to the negative power. So, x to the negative third. Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing because you might be tempted to say that this will turn into x to the negative second because you're thinking of, oh, 3 minus 1, that's 2, so it must be the same with negatives. But with negatives, you really have to sort of pay attention to what you're doing, because you and I both know that negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4, right? And that's just how quick and easy the power rule is. You can also use the power rule in a function that has many parts. So let's say we have 3x to the 5th plus 12x to the 3rd plus, let's say we have 2x, okay? So you would really just be doing the power rule 3 times over. So 3 times 5 is 15, x to the 5 minus 1 is 4, plus 12 times 3 is 36, and then x to the 3 minus 1 is 2, plus, and then we know that the derivative of x will always be 1, so we can just say that the derivative of 2x will be 2, right? Because x to the first, 2 times x to the first, we bring down our 1, we multiply it times 2, we get 2 times x to the 0th power, x to the 0th power is just 1, so we end up with just 2. And then we have our answer. And that's really just how quick and simple the power rule is. Ooh, it's the end screen. Click on one of these links to be directed to that playlist. And don't forget to subscribe!